everybody! It's the first day of autumn. I am very excited. And you know, I have my raven blanket, I have a sweater on, I've got a mug of tea. I am all set for autumn. Although where I'm at, it is still 90 degrees, but you know, it has been getting cooler. It's been getting to like 70s in the morning, which is great. But anyways, to celebrate, I thought it would be fun to do a autumnal book recommendations sort of thing. And I've been seeing a lot of these on YouTube, and I thought it would be fun to do it myself. I love books, and I think these are some really great ones, and I hope that you might give them a try and really enjoy them too. Now, before you get started, I just want to say there are, for me, like 2 different kind of books to read in autumn. For me, being like, one is like books that feel like autumn to me, and the second half of these books are going to be what I would usually read towards like October, when things get a little bit scarier and darker, and yeah, I'm really excited about that. So let's get started with the ones I would read before October, maybe like in November as well, not during like Halloween time. So the first one I have here is, I feel like this is a controversial book. I feel like nobody likes this book, and I can understand why. It's controversial. But it is The Catcher in the Rye. Now this isn't necessarily set in autumn, this is set during winter break, but I don't know, I associate this with fall for some reason. For anybody who doesn't know what this is about a young boy named Holden Caulfield who just got kicked out of boarding school again. And he decides to kind of have a last couple day or two in New York City before he has to go home and confront his reality with his parents. This book is a lot about self-discovery. It tackles a lot of really heavy issues. I recommend looking at the trigger warnings before reading this, because there are some in here where they talk about some things that I don't think, if you're not in a good place, might not be the best. But I still say this is a book everybody should read once in their life. I really enjoy it, and like I said, even though this isn't like based in autumn, it's based in winter. I don't know why. I think it might be the cover. It's red and bright, but I don't know. Okay, this might be a little weird, but do you guys like associate scents with certain books? Because I know I definitely do, and for this book, I for some reason imagine like the smell of bourbon and pipe tobacco and fires burning, and for me those are very autumnal things. But yeah, I really enjoy this book, and I feel like, again, it's one that you should read at least once in your life. Right, next one, again, isn't necessarily based in autumn. I thought I would just get these 2 out of the way. Or actually, no, there's one more after this. But it is The Outsiders. I read this every September for some reason. I don't know why September. It's just when I read it. But this is one of my all-time favorite books. And I feel like probably a lot of people had to read this in middle school or just have read it at some point in their life. It's a pretty popular book. But this is a book about Ponyboy, who is our main character. And in his town where he lives, there are like 2 different groups of people. There are the Socias, who are kind of the more upper class people of the town. They drive nice cars, have nice clothes, their hair always looks really good. And then the other part of town, you have the Greasers. And the Greasers are the ones that everybody sort of makes judgments about and looks upon badly. And it's about Ponyboy, and one day he and his friend Johnny are just walking about, and they get ganged up on by a group of Socias, and they try to drown Ponyboy, and he awakes to find that Johnny has murdered one of their members, or one of the Socias, and so they decide to run away. And that's basically the plot of the book, but it goes so much deeper than that. It's, again, a book about self-discovery and loss of innocence, and I just love this book so much. It has so much meaning to me. I just love it. And it's also a pretty short book. It's like literally 180 pages. But S.E. Hinton's writing is just so great, and I don't know, I just love this book, and so I always recommend it. Yeah. Next is also one that isn't necessarily based in autumn. I'm so sorry about that, but I just associate a lot of books with autumn that aren't based in autumn, I'm sorry. But this is Wuthering Heights. This is a really pretty and old edition that I have that I got from my grandparents from their house. It's from 1944, and I just think it's real cool and old, and I just think it's really cute. And there are pictures in it. Let me see if I can find a good one for you guys. Here we go. Like, there's just some really great photos in here. Oh, it's so nice. I just finished reading this actually. But I think I associate this one with fall because there is like some paranormal aspects to it, and it's very dramatic, very dark, and I don't know, I think for me dramas are meant for autumn. I don't know. But this, I would say, it's kind of like in two parts. The first part is this love story between Heathcliff and Kathy. They've known each other since they were really young, but Kathy feels like she should be with somebody who is more educated and richer, who can afford her nice clothes. But then again, she has true feelings for Heathcliff. And part two of it is just sort of everything that happens based on Catherine's decision. Okay, I know you guys have been waiting for it. This is actually a fall book. This is Amongst the Beasts and Briars by Ashley Poston? I don't know how you pronounce it. But this one I got in a Owl Crate box, and I don't know, I feel like I never hear anybody talk about this book, but I really like it. It's very simple. It's sort of that YA fantasy sort of vibe. It's very simple, and I don't know, I really like it, but it has beautiful descriptions of autumn, like not autumn days, but days of walking through a forest and woodland creatures, and then I don't know, it's just really good. But this is about a girl named Sirius, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Cerys, and she lives in a nice peaceful town, like her whole life. It's peaceful, it's quiet, nothing bad ever really happens. But one day these dark, mysterious creatures start coming out from the woods and attacking the town, which makes her have to flee, where she and her fox friend that she has had for the past couple years have to run off to and sort of save the village. And it is a really great book. It's very lighthearted. There's a romance, there's beautiful woodland creatures and dark creatures, and like I said, it has that sort of forest fall vibe that's really nice. So yeah. Next, okay, the last two are more like, again, not books that are based in autumn, but ones that I associate with autumn. Again, I'm so sorry about that, but I promise you the next section, this is going to be like fall and scary. Next series that I'm going to talk about is the Inkheart series by Cornelia Funke. I loved this series growing up. My mom got me into it. She loves it too. And I feel like nobody talks about this. They made a movie with Brendan Fraser as well that's really good, and I feel like it's fairly accurate to the book, which very rarely happens. But yeah, this book is about a girl named Maggie whose dad has this like really cool ability to like go into books and bring something back from them, but in return something from our world has to go into the book. And one day Maggie's father gets captured, and Maggie and her friends have to go save him, and along the way you come across some really cool creatures. You come across from like books that we know, like Tinkerbell's in here, and you have the flying monkeys from The Wizard of Oz, and it is only 3 books in the series, but it is fantastic. But yeah, Inkheart, it's really good. Last book for this like autumn sort of part of this reading recommendations is The Body by Stephen King. And now a lot of you might have actually seen this story before because it has a really famous movie called Stand By Me, which came out in the 80s. It stars River Phoenix and so many other fantastic people, Kiefer Sutherland, who I love. But it's basically about these 4 boys who decide to go on a hunt for a dead body that is somewhere in their town. And along the way they sort of confront their own issues and learn about friendship and about themselves. And it's a really sweet book. It's one of those where it's like, yes, the whole premise is that they have to find a body, but it's more about the characters, and I really like that. And it's also pretty short. This is only about 180 pages, roughly. So it's a very quick read, but it's a really good one. And I think I just associate this with Autumn because it's about walking through the woods and friendship, and I don't know why self-discovery books for me are what I associate with Autumn. But yeah, I always recommend this one to people. Now let's start on that sort of Halloween, October sort of books that I recommend, and we'll continue on with the Stephen King theme for the next couple ones. The next one I have here is Stephen King's Carrie, which is, I feel like everybody probably knows the premise of Carrie now, but it's about a girl named Carrie, believe it or not, who is picked on at school. She's doesn't really dress the best. She's a little bit more like not put together as some of the other girls here, and because of that a lot of people make fun of her, and she doesn't have any friends, and it's really sad. And she lives with a very sort of crazy mom who is very religious and kind of beats down on Carrie a little bit. But Carrie soon realizes she has telekinetic powers, and yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know what happens in Carrie, but in case you don't, I'll leave it there. But I love this book, and this is very different from the movies that you sort of see, because this book is set, or not set, but it is in the form of a bunch of like letters and interviews with people. Like, you learn about the conclusion of this book from the beginning, and it's like interviews with neighbors of Carrie's and a couple of students from the high school and things like that, and it's a really interesting format, and I really enjoy it. And my last Stephen King book that I have here is Misery. I don't know why I said it like that. This is Misery by Stephen King. Also, can I just point out really quick that this edition, I got it at a used bookstore, and it came with the most epic photo of Stephen King in the back. But like, let me show you. Like, this is the front. It looks cool, but then, whew, look at that. Awesome photo. I love it. Anyways, this is probably, like, out of his novels, probably my favorite of his. I don't read a lot of Stephen King. Sorry. As I was saying, I don't read a lot of Stephen King's books because, I don't know, for some reason I can't really vibe with his writing. I try to, but I don't think his writing is necessarily my style. But I do really enjoy this book. This is about a guy who is a writer and is on his way to go to like a cabin so he can write and finish off some books or just relax. I can't really remember which one it is, but it's one of those two. And anyways, he gets into a car crash and wakes up and finds that he's in some random woman's house. And this woman seems nice at first. She's taking care of him and saying that she's like a fan of his book series called Misery. And slowly but surely he discovers that she's a little bit crazy and is keeping him hostage until he rewrites the ending of his book series Misery. So yeah, a lot of crazy things happen in this. It keeps you on your toes, let me tell you. Like, you don't know where she is, when she's gonna come in, what she's gonna do, because she's just like all over the place. But yeah, this book was just not necessarily like paranormal or deals with like vampires or ghosts or anything. I think it's still pretty creepy and I really like it, so always recommend Misery. Alright, next one is a children's book that I really like. This one is The Witches by Roald Dahl. I feel like out of all his books, this is the one that I feel like not a lot of people talk about. They talk about the movie, but I feel like all my friends don't know that it's a book as well. And to be honest, I did not know this was a book either until a couple years ago when I helped stage manage a production of this, and I just fell so much in love with the story that I had to read it, and I think now it's probably a staple of mine during the autumn and scary October season. This is such a sweet little book. It's about a little boy who goes away on holiday with his grandmother to a hotel so she can get over a sickness that she has had. And while he's there, he finds out there is a convention for witches at the hotel and gets sort of locked in a room where they're having like their annual meeting, and finds out that they have a plan to turn all the children in the world to mice because they hate children. And long story short, they find him and turn him into a mouse, and he has to find a way to not be a mouse. And it is so sweet. Like, the ending is so sweet. They changed it for the movies, but I love this ending. It's so sweet, so I always recommend reading it. Maybe with kids it's going to be really cute. I wouldn't say it's scary. It's more funny than anything, but the ending is so sweet. Like, I cannot get over the ending, if you can't tell. So I always recommend reading the book, and I know there are a couple movies with it. I think there's one with Angelica Houston from the 90s, and then a couple years ago I think they remade the movie with Anne Hathaway, but I always recommend the one with Angelica Houston because that one's my favorite. But I highly recommend this too. It's so cute. We only have a couple more books now. Okay. I'm sorry if this is really long, but I don't know. I have a lot of books that I would like to share. But this next one is Lakesedge by Lyndall Clipstone, I think is how you pronounce it. I got this again from Owlcrate, and I really enjoyed it. It's, I think, going to be a series, but right now I think it's just a standalone. Yeah, this is about a girl named Letta who has a brother who has these magical sort of powers. Anyway, a dark figure of the town comes to her house and says that he needs his brother's help. And so she and her brother go with him to this really dark and spooky mansion by the lake. And, you know, everything's not as it seems. She knows she's heard all her life that this man killed his family and that this mansion is really dark and evil, and everything's not what it seems. It has a romance. There's some really great action in here, and I don't know, it has some really eerie moments talking about this lake and about death, and I don't know, it's just really spooky and eerie, and I really like it. So. Right, next I have In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. This is actually a nonfiction book. I've only read this once and I really liked it. It's about a man named Perry Smith who murdered a family one day back in the 60s, I want to say. And anyway, Truman Capote wanted to revisit the story of why he murdered them and, you know, everything that built up to it. And it is very eerie because you're kind of looking into the mind of this serial killer, and it is dark. If you love true crime, I think this is going to be a great recommendation. And I don't know, it's a classic. I mean, I feel like everybody has probably read this, but it's really good. I really recommend that. And I also recommend anything Truman Capote writes. I love his writing style. So we're on our last two books, and these will be really quick, I promise. So the next one is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, who is one of my all-time favorite authors. I could read anything that he writes. I love him so much. But I really loved this book around this time. It's really short, but it's really dark and really eerie, and I really like it for around Halloween time. This is probably the one that I read basically every year around Halloween, or usually the day of Halloween. I really love it. It's about a guy named Dr. Jekyll who makes a potion, and the potion causes him to turn into a alter ego of his called Mr. Hyde. And, you know, Mr. Hyde's not doing some great things. He's not doing some great things, but Dr. Jekyll then has to find a way to end the living of Hyde, which I'm not going to spoil what that is, but read it. It's really good. And like I said, it's a short story, so it's not that long. This one, I know it looks long, but it's with like other stories in here as well. Yeah. And last but not least, this will be really fast. Oh, it did fall! No! My books just fell over. I was like stacking them neatly on the floor and they just fell over. No! Oh well. But the last one that I'm going to share with you today, I feel like is quintessential Halloween books. And that, of course, is anything written by Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. I have my Raven blanket as well. But I just love reading Edgar Allan Poe around this time. Like, definitely his books aren't necessarily written about Halloween or about fall or October or anything like that, but I feel like his books definitely have a darkness to them that Kind of makes you feel Halloweeny. I don't know. I just really like it. But if I had to recommend any to read around this time, I would definitely recommend The Raven. Of course, that's quintessential Poe. I love, ooh, what's it called? Telltale Heart, Fall of the House of Usher, Mask of the Red Death. Those are some of my favorites, but I highly recommend it. He's kind of like, if you love Tim Burton, I think you would love Edgar Allan Poe. Whew, that was a lot of books. Sorry if this is a long video or if you're having other expectations for what these books would be about, but I don't know, I just really felt like making one of these, and I hope you really enjoyed it. If you do, please like, subscribe, comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. I just started this channel and I hope to make more videos, maybe not necessarily about books, but about other things too, so let me know what you would like to see. And yeah, I hope you guys just make yourself a nice cup of tea and enjoy your day. Bye!